The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and good afternoon to all ACCA members joining us today. I am Danish Shamsi, and I'm delighted to present to you part 2 of the Employability and Self-Awareness series with Ankit Hemani. Your education and experience may make you eligible to apply for a job, but to be successful in most roles, you will need skills that are likely to develop over time. Some will be specific to the job, but the vast majority of the so-called soft skills that can be used in any job or employment sector. These soft skills are employability skills. They are what make you employable. Joining me today is Ankit Hemani. Ankit is a career coach, mentor, and a public speaker. He is also a chartered practicing accountant, NLP and HBDI certified practitioner. Ankit is a well-regarded executive coach and strategist to corporate professionals, and he completed his master's degree in accounting in 2007 from Griffith University, and in 2010 achieved his CPA status. He started his career at the Australian water system and has since worked for multi-billion-dollar companies. After taking a journey from being the lowest paid employee in a team of 50 accountants to being the highest paid, he now helps individuals transform their career and lives by taking them on the same journey. Ankit is known for creating 100% results for his clients and being the strategic brain for individuals in leadership and executive positions to improve their skills, expand their minds, and rebrand their careers. Today's session will cover the 5 keys for finance professionals, key items to start doing and stop doing to improve your skills, LinkedIn tips, and resume tips. We will be dedicating some time at the end of the session to go over some questions, so please do feel free to drop them in the question panel. And I would like to take this time right now to thank Ankit and all ACCA members for continuing to invest in your professional development. Over to you, Ankit.
Thank you. Thank you, Danish, for a wonderful introduction, and warm welcome to everyone at the ACCA. So those who were with me in the previous session, welcome back. And for those who have missed the previous session, I believe there must be a recording that you can have a look at. So today's session, I'm quite excited. I'm quite energized to be talking about it, because everything that we're going to talk about today is practical. Everything that we're going to talk about today is something that you can start doing straight away. And there would be a lot of things that I'll mentioning during the presentation that you should be able to stop doing so that you're not doing disadvantageous to your brand. So just so that you're clear that why you are here, okay? So when I talk about employability, I talk about 2 things. It's not just finding new jobs in a different organization or finding a different role in a different organization. It's also finding opportunities or creating opportunities within the same organization that you are. Especially if you work for a larger organization, you're going to have at least 1 to 3 promotion opportunities every year. However, if you do not have the right skills and the mindsets that we'll be talking about today, you may be continuously be overlooked for those opportunities. So just to be clear, the presentation is for corporate professionals like yourself who have tried few things, but that haven't really been able to package it all together and really have those actionable tips that they can take with them and start making a shift. And someone who's looking for those skills, someone who's willing to invest time and energy in really self-developing themselves. So as mentioned earlier, we will be talking about some 5 key skills I would be sharing a template of resume with you guys, and also I'll be opening up my own LinkedIn profile in front of you and show you a few things that I'm doing that you yourself can think about doing to make significant differences to making you more employable. Yes, it's a lot of things that we're trying to cover, and I'll try to give as much knowledge as I can in the limited time we have. So what I will highly recommend is to avoid any distractions during the session. It's very hard. Like I have attended a numerous amount of webinars like this one, and it's very difficult to stay motivated, especially when you are by yourself in a room or in an office, just listening to a screen or a presenter talking about these things. But believe me, if you pretend that you are in front of a live audience or in front of a live stage, you will get most out of it. Take notes. You will forget 80% of things that I'll mention today. So if you take notes, your retention is going to go up. And asking questions, it's very important. The more questions you ask, the more you're going to get out of it. And I'll make sure that we leave quite a bit of time towards the end to make sure that I answer as many questions as you want, and no question is silly. If you got a question that you got in your head, I can guarantee you there's 10 other people on this webinar who are actually thinking that question as well. It's just that if you are proactive enough to ask that question, you're actually doing your colleagues a favor. All right, so skills. Why 5 skills, and how did this come about? So I've been in the accounting industry for almost 15 years, and I've been privileged to work for small family-owned business to medium-sized private equity, high governance style businesses, to all the way to multi-billion-dollar multinational organization with headquarters sometimes in Europe, sometimes in US, huge corporations with 80,000, 100,000 employees around the world. And the journey has not been smooth. Every time I have found myself applying for new roles, applying for new opportunities, or every time that I have missed on getting an opportunity, it has come down to these 5 skills that I wasn't really good at. What's really good about these skills is it's irrelevant what level of career you are. I have used or trained fresh accounting graduates in these skills, and also I have worked with senior accountants, finance managers, finance controllers work on this same very skills. The question you may have is, well, how can they be same for those 2 levels of people? Well, the thing is, the level at which you perform those skills would be different. When we go through the list, it'll probably make a lot more sense for yourself as to what I mean. So the first one, I should say skill number 5, I'm going to count it down from 5 to 1, being not really the least important, but the number 1 in my personal research is the most important skill. So let's start with number 5, time management. It's not a secret that everyone on this call is busy. We all live a busy schedule. We all have our calendars always full. The analogy or the story that I use is we all wake up with the same amount of hours every day. So every human being on the earth has got 24 hours that he or she gets every day. Some people use that to create success. Some people use that to create a lot of money. And some people, not so much. So how do we make most of this finite resource that we have? How do we make most of this 24 hours that we have? So there's a couple of things that you need to stop doing, and this is quite relevant. This is quite relevant when you are at work. The first thing that you need to stop doing is stop multitasking. However counterintuitive it sounds, doing 2-3 tasks together actually reduces productivity. There has been a lot of research done in this area in a corporate environment where you could be on a phone call trying to prepare reports with the other hand on the other screen, trying to think about how you're going to manage a team on a piece of paper. You're trying to do few things. However, if you pick a task on hand, finish it before you go on to the next one, it is proven to actually increase productivity. If you want to see a live proof of this statement, observe highly senior executives in your own organizations. They're always super focused on one thing that they're working on. They do it well and then move on to the next thing. If you don't pay attention, it may seem to you that they're just doing a lot of things. However, they're only doing one thing at a time. The next thing that you got to stop doing is engage or even entertain distractions. This is very easy. Like now we are around the world trying to get back to some sort of normal life. Work from home is a good option to have, but we are going back to the offices, and it's very easy to get distracted or get engaged in social conversation. And don't get me wrong, having social conversations is quite important. If you consider that interaction that you have with your friends and peers at work as a task, it just proves my first point. Finish the task that you have on hand and then move on to the next conversation. So if someone comes to you at your desk and say, hey, what are you doing? How was your weekend? What's happening? Blah, blah, blah. The best way that you can avoid or not participate in those kind of conversation is just by saying, I really want to talk to you. However, let me finish the task that I have on my hand and I'll get back to you. The people who seem to behave in this way tends to earn more respect because it shows that you are giving equal importance to your work and the relationship that you're trying to maintain at work as well. The things that you need to start doing in terms of managing your time better, especially in your work environment, is emails. All of us get bombarded with heaps and heaps of emails every day. So there's heaps of ways you can manage email, but the one that works and that's very simple for me to explain is the DAD model, like a DAD model. So it's quite simple. When you receive an email, there's only 3 things that you can do with it. Okay, either you do something. So an email that you receive requires an action, so you do it at the same time. Second one is you allocate the task to someone. So you receive an email, it's not something you need to do, it's something someone else needs to do. And the third category is the best one, where if you don't need to do anything, if you don't need to let anyone in your team do something with it, you just delete it. Okay, so by managing your emails this way, it creates a false sense of security that you don't have a million things to do. I tend to, on majority of days, I should say 95% of the days when I finish my work hours, I make sure that I have 0 unread emails in my email box. I've seen some emails, especially I do a lot of work with operations. I do a lot of business partnering with the operations managers, general managers. And when I see 2,000, 3,000 emails that they haven't read, I'm like, wow, how do you know that you're not missing something important? I'm sure 90% of them can just be deleted. The next thing that you got to start doing is learn to delegate. You cannot progress in your careers if you can't learn to delegate. You will be stuck at whatever level you are if you are not master at delegating. And obviously the last thing goes without saying is learn to manage your calendar. I tend to have one calendar for both work, business, personal life, things that I need to do. Everything sits in one combined calendar. So I know exactly where and when and why I will be required, so that I never miss preparing for that requirement, and I know exactly how much time I have available to do other things. All right, moving on. The skill number 4 is emotion management. The more senior you're going to get within your organization, or the more senior roles that you apply for, you cannot be who you are in terms of how you behave at work. Yes, I'm sure we all have seen some crazy general managers and CFOs and CEOs in our lifetime, but the really successful leaders know how to manage their emotions really, really well. So what you need to do, or what you should really stop doing in terms of managing your emotion, is imagine a situation where you are at work and you receive an email and you are absolutely frustrated or angry at the content of that email. The natural response that most of us do is fire back another angry email at the person. And that just makes the conversation go worse. It has been so many times that it's not funny, where I would have actually typed an email, an angry email, and I do not hit send. I just save that in my draft. I open the same draft again next morning. And what was so emotional yesterday doesn't really matter the next day. So what I've done is I managed to respond to the email rather than react to the email. And same goes for the chat as well. If someone calls you up and they're frustrated, they're angry, they're sad, whatever emotion it may be, see if you could delay the conversation with them in a very similar fashion, like you're trying to avoid a distraction. You can say, I understand how you feel. Let's have this conversation tomorrow. I'll schedule some time in your diary. What this does is, when the person comes to have a chat with yourself tomorrow, the focus is actually on solving a problem rather than solving his or her emotion. The next thing that you need to stop doing, then this is the biggest mistake a lot of people make when I talk about emotion management, is they start pretending like a machine. That's not what I mean. What I mean here is learn to regulate your emotion. In a work environment, people go from going really excited to being really sad, to being really frustrated, to be really upset. But it's very hard to stay within some boundaries. You can have your own boundaries, and you can call them professional boundaries. Like, how much can you get upset in a professional environment? How much can you get sad in a professional environment? So it's not about being a machine, it's about regulating your emotions. What you start to do instead is, if you find yourself in a highly emotional situation where someone has said, done, or written something, before you react or respond, ask a question: why are they doing that? Irrespective of how unreasonable that person is or has been in the past, ask yourself a question: what is in their world that's causing them to react this way? And if you have a good enough rapport, nothing is stopping you from asking that question to that person as well. The way I've done that in the past is by asking, I understand where you're coming from. However, it would be nice for you to clarify what's actually happening. Now, Remember I said earlier that managing emotion is one of the key skills that a leader needs to possess, and which is what I would highly recommend all of you to start doing, is start behaving like you are boss already. So I'm sure you've been into some retail shops, and whenever you had to complain about something and they said, I'll call my manager. And when the manager walks in to help you in that situation, they have a different body language. They carry themselves differently. They talk with authority. They talk with confidence. And that's how you know that that person is the boss. Same goes for you as well. You don't have to be boss. You can show the same level of confidence in your communication, in your body language. What that does is people start thinking that whenever they require the next boss, this person's ready. Moving on to the skill number 3 is decision making. The higher you're going to get in the organization, the key question actually that people are going to ask you in interviews, especially if you're going for senior roles, is they will ask you to make a decision about a scenario. I've been in some interviews with senior FP&As and senior financial controllers, and the questions that get asked are like, if this happens, what decisions would you be making? What separates good leader from ordinary leaders is the decisions they make. So what you need to stop doing in terms of making decision is stop focusing on words. The next thing you need to stop doing is, a lot of time we make decisions, however, we do not see through. We keep changing our decisions. So if you are making some decision, make sure you follow through, because there was a reason why you made that decision. A couple more things that you need to stop doing is fear failure. This is number one reason why people stop making decisions. They rather not make a decision than, just because they fear the failure if they make a decision. Take risk. As an accountant, we are really good at mitigating risk and learning from the past, and we can use the same knowledge in decision making. Next thing is what you need to do in terms of making, getting really good at making decision is go lean. Find the smallest component of the topic that's trying to make a decision, and then make a decision for that. For example, if you're trying to buy a house, the smallest decision that you can start making is, okay, what city or what suburb I'm going to buy the house in, and then go from there. Or even smaller decision would be how big a house that I need. So those are micro decisions that you can make that contributes to the larger decision that you will be required to make. The best one is fail small and fail fast. I would rather fail fast and fail small rather than not making a decision and failing big in the future. The other thing, which is I mentioned earlier, stop focusing on the worst, instead focus on what could happen if you could make decisions. Focus on opportunities. Have a think about what will happen if you do not make decisions. Skill number 2 is effective questioning. Good leaders ask good questions. In an interview situation, when the interviewers ask, do you have any questions? That is the time which is critical. It's a make or break. 80% of interviews fail because people ask stupid questions. That is your opportunity to ask good questions. And same goes within the organization as well. So what you need to stop doing is ask lousy questions. You need to stop asking questions that you don't need answers for. A lot of time we just ask questions because we need confirmation, we need validation, we need just to prove a point that you are asking questions. However, be very careful regarding what sort of questions you are asking. There's a lot of focus and a lot of training and coaching that happens in this area. It's beyond questions. I could spend hours and hours teaching someone how to really get really good at asking questions. So there's a couple of tips that I'll share with you in regards to those questions. Is instead of asking someone, you know, a plain question, a boring question, see if you can ask their opinion. See if you can get their counsel or perspective. By doing this, you will have a better and open conversation. And which leads into the second point here is ask question that promotes conversation. So instead of asking how are you doing or how are you, because how are you questions are usually ends with fine, how are you. They do not promote conversation. They are not leaders' questions. There's 1,000 different ways you can start a conversation and build a rapport instantly. So skill number one is public speaking. This is the absolute number one skill. And I'll explain in a second why it's absolutely important. And when I say public speaking, it's not about getting on a stage and speaking in front of a public. This is more how you talk, how you contribute, how you present in a meeting, how prepared you are in meetings, how well you conduct yourself in meetings. Do you look like a boss in those meetings, or do you look like an ordinary employee in those meetings? I was in a finance conference with 60 accountants, and a few different mid-level managers had to present on few topics. Some were good, some were horrible, until the CEO of the organization came and he spoke. And even if you missed his introduction, just because the way he was speaking, you could tell that this dude is someone senior. So that's why public speaking can be really powerful. So there's a couple of things that you can stop doing, which will definitely make your public speaking better, is do not use qualifying statements. What I mean by that is, say for example, after we finish this presentation, we will be going and looking at my resume. What if I tell you my resume is not the best in the world, but we will have a look at it. When you start your conversation by telling people that you are not the best, people would expect nothing out of you. They will just feel that they're talking to someone really ordinary. Even if you are not the best in the topic that you're presenting, never start your presentations by saying, I'm not the best in this, but I'll try. Never say that. The second thing you got to keep in mind is you're not changing the world. It's just a presentation. So there's nothing to be nervous about. There's nothing to be scared about. You are not changing the world. You are there. You are allocated a time to talk about a topic. You talk about that topic as much as you know. You do justice to the topic, and that's where the job ends. Do not seek live feedback. This is absolutely critical. You may be doing a presentation in a meeting, explaining a proposal to someone, and you see one of your colleagues or your peers or your bosses making funny faces or looking disengaged, or of making expressions that they don't really agree with what you are saying. Do not seek live feedback. Once you start getting better, and again, this takes a lot of time and practice, but I do that quite a bit with the class that I work with, is we practice how to handle that fear, how to actually turn that around if you are in a meeting and someone is giving you reactions of rejection. And the second thing here is do not hide. If you are presenting in a meeting room, do not hide behind the desk or a lectern or anything that covers more than half of your body. Like, by hiding, you're showing lack of confidence. Instead, what you need to do is, as I said, because you are dedicated a time to present on a particular topic, make sure you know your content. Make sure you prepare. Make sure you practice before you go. The question that gets asked quite a bit to me is, how much do you need to practice? Well, it depends how important the topic that you're presenting. Is it a regular team meeting? Then maybe 5-10 minutes practice is enough. Are you pitching a client for $1 million proposal? Then you probably need a few weeks of practice. So it depends what's at stake. However, at minimum, 2 minutes practice. When I say practice, it's knowing your agenda, knowing what you're going to talk about, knowing answers to potential questions. Like the question that I'm going to get today, I would have prepared answers trying to preempt most of the questions. Imagine if I don't think about the questions that you would be asking today, then I would probably have no answers for you. So what do you need to do instead of what we discussed is start high. So in meetings, this is quite critical. If you're presenting a topic, a proposal, a report, or doing a presentation about the end of month result or annual performance, quarterly performance, start high with a headline. Then go to the next layer of the details. And then depending upon the time and interest, you dive deeper. I've seen so many finance executives starting at the other end. They start with the details. What happens is when you start with the details, you will lose 80% of your audience. Because most of the time, majority of the people in the audience just wants to know, did I hit my target? Did I not? If you start with that, okay, I missed my target. Why? Okay, you missed your target because of A, B, and C. Okay, then you gauge their interest. Would you like me to talk more about A, B, or C? They'll say B, and that's when you go deeper. The next one is be yourself. There is no need for you to behave, or I should say, present like someone. Create your own presentation style. You don't need to be worried about any accent that you have. You don't need to be worried about if English is your second language. You don't need to be worried about if your English is not as fluent as other people who may be born in an English-speaking family. You don't have to be worried about how other people are or what dynamics you have in the room that you're presenting. You just have to be yourself. This is going to give you the confidence that you need. So there's questions at the moment. However, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to switch over my screen and I'm going to talk about my resume, and you have my contact details. The best way to contact me is add me on LinkedIn. If you go onto my profile, it would say follow me. However, there's a small button on the right that kind of lets you drop down and press connect. I'm always open to connections. So if you send me a request, I will definitely accept it, and I'll be more than happy and privileged to have you on my network. So let me switch over from this presentation onto a resume. All right, so this is a performer of resume that I prepared for you. There are few pointers here. So obviously the details that I have on here are not real. They are created for this presentation purposes, just to give you an idea of what you need to do in your own resume. So we start with the top title. Your name is quite important. I'm a qualified CPA accountant, so I make sure I write that so that people know just by reading that, okay, they are reading a resume of a fully qualified accountant. I've seen so many CVs where they do not have their addresses. They do not have which area they live in. And that makes it quite difficult, because I have interviewed a lot of people, and only to realize that they are in a different city 1,000 kilometers away. So if people are not comfortable giving their home addresses, I would probably recommend that you at least provide the province or the state or the suburb that you are living in, to make sure that you're not attracting wrong employees or wrong or wrong employers or wrong recruiters. Contact details, mobile numbers, quite important. Email address, obviously very, very important. Make sure that your email address is professional. Please do not use personal email address, which really creates a negative emotion. And what I mean by that is, I was recruiting for a graduate role, and this young guy in his 22, 23, he applied for the job, and he had email address of rockyisgreat@gmail.com. Employers don't want to see rockyisgreat@gmail.com. So if you got any such email addresses, please try to change it. I would even recommend you to not have numbers, something like Ankit 1995 32, Ankit 32@gmail.com. Do not have that. I really take pride in my branding. So as you can see, I have invested in my own domain. So my email address is always going to be my name. Okay. The next, obviously, is LinkedIn profile. This is a PDF document that I'm sharing. So the link is active link, which allows people to click on the link and go to the profile if they need to. Very precise career summary. All this is doing is telling people, this is who I am, this is the industries I've worked in, and this is where I've worked for. Okay. Giving people a very quick rundown of my education qualification. And as you can notice, I'm not writing down my subjects or my grades or anything like that. Unless you are a gold medalist, ACCA, CA, CPA, sure. But if you are just any ordinary, I shouldn't say ordinary, but if you're just a normal average person who graduated from university, CA, CPA, ACCA, just say that. You don't need to say, oh, you got a 4 out of 7. I mean, it's not required. No one cares, honestly. The next thing, which is quite critical, is the key skills. And this is where the creativity comes in. Every time I apply for a job, I read what skills they require. And I make sure if I have those skills, I never lie. If I do not have any of those skills that they're after, I would not write it down. But I make sure if they need, for example, Microsoft Excel Advanced, I'll make sure I write that down because I do have that. So that section keeps changing. Okay. The next bit is my employment history. This tells people exactly when I'm working, where I'm working, very brief intro about the company, because not everyone knows about every organizations. I mean, a lot of people in Australia, in the world, may not have heard of this company, but they are world's #1 dairy. Many people may not have heard of this organization, but they are world's #1 concrete and aggregates manufacturers. Imagine they're world #1, but because you don't play in that industry, you got absolutely no idea. Because I had several roles while I was in that organization, I'm listing them over here. What this shows people is this guy is progressing. Okay, so he's been with the organization for 6 years, but he's not doing the same job every day. He's actually getting promoted because he must be doing something right. Brief overview about what you are doing, enough to give idea to people about exactly what your role is. The next thing is achievements, very, very important. As an accountant, as a finance manager, everyone does similar duties. However, to get promoted multiple times, to consistently perform in your reviews, to create a culture, to automate, to engage the team. There are significant achievements that people need to know. Similarly here, if I'm saving $1 million for the organization, if I'm giving better clarity to business managers, getting employee of the month in the very first month that I ever started, that's what people need to know, that, well, if 100 management accountants are applying, this is why I'm different. Moving on, one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen people make is they have hundreds and hundreds of roles that they've worked for. However, try to keep it relevant. No one wants to know if you worked for Burger King. No one wants to know if you did casual weekend job, driving taxi or something like that, for example. It's not relevant to the accounting industry. You could have worked as a stockbroker, but is it relevant to the jobs that you're applying for? Probably not. I have worked in a telecommunication organization, which is not on this resume. However, in the future, if I apply for such roles, I'll make sure I will add that experience. Very important to write your extracurricular activities, your interest. The reason you write that is same thing. This is what's going to differentiate you from other people. This is how you can show your potential employers that you like to do reading books or play sport or play an instrument or play music or sing. This is where most connections are made. I have had interviews where people go, oh, I saw you play cricket. Oh, I do too. Which team do you play for? And the conversation just flows from there. All right. I'm going to quickly move on to LinkedIn profile. So you should see my browser. I can safely assume that most people on this call have a LinkedIn profile. However, I can also safely assume that majority of you are not doing much on LinkedIn. And what I say by doing much is most people have a LinkedIn profile that they started, they filled in few sections here and there, they connected with few friends here and there, but they're not actively engaging on this platform. This platform has got more than 700 million people on it worldwide. So that you would never know who could connect with you and who you could connect with. So to give you a very good example, for example, if you are connected with me, that automatically makes you second connection with all the 2,000 people or more that I'm connected with. So if you post something, if you like my content, if you engage with me on my post, they will see your name. And this is how hidden jobs are created. People may look at your comments and go, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. And they may reach out and connect with you. Okay. You will know that your LinkedIn profile is powerful when you start receiving job applications in your messages. People would contact you saying, hey, are you interested in these opportunities? So I'm going to have a quick view at my profile. There's a couple of things that you need to be mindful of is definitely your photo. Keep it as professional as possible. I've seen some people, they have their family photo in there with the kids involved in the background. Do not do that. It needs to be just you with a background that kind of shows who you are. So obviously in this top photo, I'm trying to show people that this is me at an event, and this is me going to an event, portraying myself as a thought leader. Over here tells a lot about what I do. And if even as an accounting professional, even as an employee, you can write a lot in there. Who you are, what are your key strengths, So very simple thing could be a finance manager with great skills in SAP, process improvements, value creation, communication, managing teams, blah blah. This is like a headline. This is where you advertise, because if people don't like what they read here, they're not going to bother to look at anything more in the detail. Okay, moving on to the about. There's a lot that you can write here. Keep it concise, keep it easy to read. Dot points are always the best. This is not copy paste of your resume, so do not copy paste your resume here. People don't want to see your resume. This is the best way to answer this question is, imagine you go to an interview and someone says, tell me about yourself. That's what you want to write here, as detailed as possible. Make sure you write your contact details. When people are reading, they can reach out to you. As I said, I have an open door policy, so I just say, okay, if you want to catch up for a coffee, or you know, if you're overseas, you want to catch up for a Zoom meeting, sure, I'm all for it. Obviously, listing out every organization that you work for. Again, same thing goes here, like your resume. This is where the trick is. If there's a position that you have here and not on your resume and vice versa, please change it. This should really reflect your resume, which is why if I worked for any small organization here and there, like in university times, I've worked for McDonald's, etc., none of that would be here because it's not relevant. This is my LinkedIn profile as a FP&A manager. This is my LinkedIn profile as a career coach, and those experiences do not make it here. They're not required here. All my educations, my licenses, any volunteering that I do, all the recommendations that I receive for work that I do, make sure that you, as a professional, make sure you request recommendations to your colleagues, to your bosses, to write it down. So the more people you're connected with, the more chances of getting more recommendations. Languages, any language that you speak, put it here. When you finish your profile, LinkedIn will actually tell you that it's a all-star profile. That's a bare minimum you need to have for your LinkedIn profile to be an all-star profile. And as a LinkedIn doctor, I will recommend you to spend at least 5 minutes a day on LinkedIn. Okay, so you look at other people's content, you like, you comment, obviously genuinely. If there's nothing to like, if there's nothing to comment, connect with one new person every day. If you do that, if you connect with one new person every day, by the end of the year, you will have 300, 400 more connections that you never had. So that concludes the official presentation that I had to do. I will open it up for any questions that you may have. So I'm just trying to open up the questions window. Okay, so we'll start from the top. Is the session being recorded? Yes, it is being recorded. You can reach out to your local ACCA staff member, and they'll probably send you a link. The next question that I have here is regarding the interview questions. What would you consider an appropriate answer to the question, tell me about yourself? I think it's related to public speaking skill. You are spot on there, Maria. It is definitely around your presentation, your public speaking skill. The number one tip that I can give you in the time we have is avoid reading your resume. People have already read your resume, so when they when they ask a question, like, oh, tell me about yourself, don't start saying, okay, I work for this company, I work for this company, this is what I do. Do not say that. This is your opportunity to tell something that's not on your resume. The best thing that I do is I try to tell them about myself, which is like, I moved into the country 15 years ago. I live with my family of 2 kids. I enjoy helping people, which translates into my work, which is why I choose to be a FP&A manager, so that I can help business deliver more value. So what I'm giving you an example of is, you are trying to tell people that this is who I am outside work, and because of that, this is how it translates into work. There's a lot of different ways you can answer that question, but I hope this gives you a little bit of a direction. And as I mentioned, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn if you want to further have a conversation about that. Okay, is it helpful to mention our values? So Mohammed, I assume you're asking this in relation to your CV. Look, again, it's very personal, and I don't see the relevance for it. I cannot remember hiring someone because of their values. I mean, have a think about it. Most people are not going to say anything wrong about their values. Everyone's going to say, I'm honest, I have high integrity, I'm very hardworking. Everyone's going to say that. It really, LinkedIn profile, go for it. In the about section, go for it. You can put it over there, but be very careful what you put on your CV. I think that answers this question as well, Mohammed, where you can mention that in your CV. It's pretty obvious. You can probably mention that in your about section in the very top, where you're saying things about yourself. If you've got a value that is quite unique, I would probably mention it, but if it's just a generic one that everyone says, probably not. Should I include my LinkedIn link even if my profile's okay? Definitely. This will force you to make your LinkedIn profile really good, but definitely include your LinkedIn profile. Should the marks be included under education if a person gets good marks, like in 80s or something? You can be your judge in that area. If you got marks in 80s, were you the only person, or were you in the top 5? That's probably the golden rule, right? Top 5. Were you in top 5? If you're not, don't worry about it. Okay. People are not going to hire you because you got 80, 90 out of 100. People are going to hire you based on your ability to solve problems. If I'm hiring you, I need to know, are you going to be someone who can help me solve my problems? Okay. Could you please suggest what should be added in a fresher's CV to get job offers? The best thing you can add in fresher's CV is your education. That's number 1. And what sort of work experience have you got? This is like a chicken and an egg situation where most people don't have experience, but what do I need to add onto the CV? If you've got nothing to add, just leave it at the first page of my CV. If you remember, you could leave it at that. As a really fresher, if you got 0 experience, tell me about yourself, tell me about your education, tell me about the skills that you got. Who's your reference? What are your extracurricular activities? Any volunteer work that you've done? Okay. So, hello, Ankit. Will the use of boxes, tables, and related make it difficult to read resumes and hiring softwares when applying for jobs online? Very good question, Bharat. Yes and no. I actually uploaded this resume onto a software, and it read most of those content. So the best way to test is when you apply for jobs with the corporations and they ask you to upload a PDF, and it would auto-populate a lot of things. If it's not populating properly, you would know that your format is not correct. As long as you've got correct titles, if it says something like experience or employment details, the software would be clever enough to pick it up. However, most HR or recruitment professionals would spend time reading your CV. So that box is my style of presenting who I am. I'm an organized person. You need to think about what style suits you, and this really tells who you are. Any specific tips for students who are starting out on LinkedIn? Yes, definitely. Connect with potential recruiters. Start connecting. Start making content. I'm sure you are posting stuff on LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. However, have a knowledge about what you can share on LinkedIn. So put your name out there is the best way I could explain. How do you remain objective, professional, and handle interview questions that may be getting too personal? So I would come back to this question because I would need more information on this one. So let me come back to it. Have a skill and personality that whatever work they see in great value I bring to the job, which is normally above my pay grade. They are more than happy with my performance and my skills. However, it is difficult to translate this into my resume and job application. How should I make a CV that reflects how much I bring to a role? I've been into that situation, Sayeda. What I did to my employer, my current employer, was I'm doing a lot more than my role. I'm contributing a lot more than my role. I do not want you to give me more money. However, I want you to change my title. If I'm an accountant doing senior accounting jobs, can I have my title changed to senior accounting? This has worked for me and my clients 100% of the time, because most employers will go, well, yeah, whatever. You're not asking for more money. Why do I care what your title is? Yeah, that works most of the time. So if you notice on my profile, I have put senior FP&A manager. That is not my official title. However, that is the job that I'm doing. So if your title is finance junior or whatever, but if you believe that you are actually assistant accountant or an accountant, just put that. Okay. All right. How to connect on LinkedIn means how to have a professional interactions with professionals. So the best way to connect on LinkedIn with someone is to make sure you send a quick message with them saying, "Hi, this is who I am. I'm a fresh graduate, or I'm an accountant with 10 years of experience. I looked at your profile and I thought it would be nice to connect with you." That's the very first. After you connect with that person, always thank them for accepting their conversation, and try to learn more about them. Like, if they work for a company, you're like, I just noticed that you work for ABC Corporation. How is it working for that organization? So just try to have those little chats. It's very similar to how you would behave if you met a stranger at a bus stop. Like, what sort of chats would you have? Does having a picture on CV matter? I never put my pictures on CV. Again, it's not telling people who I am. Some people do. There's nothing wrong with it, but I personally don't see a value in there. Could you suggest any skill that I could learn online for free to get a job, like Excel or something? Look, I would recommend you a skill, which is stop looking for free stuff. It's free for a reason, okay? Either they are giving you free stuff because they want to sell you more expensive stuff. So that's number one tip that I can give you. To answer your question though, yes, Excel is quite necessary if you are a finance professional. So it's absolutely necessary. So just going back to Zoya's question, which we have not answered. So if you do not mind, drop me a note on LinkedIn. We're out of time, and I definitely need more context into what your real concerns are, so that I can answer it better. So with that, I will hand it back to Danish or Tonsa, who is available.
Hi, Ankit.
Danish?
Hi,
Yes.
Ankit. Danish had to drop off for a call. So thank you very much, Ankit. That was really insightful. And We at ACCA Middle East are delighted that you were able to support this our two-part series, and we look forward to having more sessions with you. The session is recorded and it will be available on the ACCA Middle East YouTube channel by close of business today. So if you want the recording, please have a look there. And thank you all also for joining us this afternoon. If you have any questions, you can drop for Ankit. You can send it to him on LinkedIn. His details are also on the screen, or you can reach out to us in the ACCA Middle East office and we will share that with him. So thank you, Ankit. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
See you all. Have a nice day.
Thank you.